Hey guys, and welcome back to another Storytime video. Today we are going to be doing some r/prorevenge. If you like these kind of videos, do consider subscribing because we will be uploading daily. But for now, just sit back, relax, and listen to some funny revenge stories. Hippity hoppity, you damaged my property. Bippity boppity, I'm calling the coppity. Bippity boppity boo, they're taking your kids too. This happened shortly after college. My mum is a retired, disabled woman who now owns our house on a quiet residential cul-de-sac. She's lived there longer than anyone else. Her neighbourhood has designated parking spaces at the end of the cul-de-sac, all with the addresses of each house painted in the parking space. My mum doesn't get out much, so I use her designated parking space. At the time, we lived in the same city and I visited her weekly to bring groceries, fix broken things, cook for her, etc. My mum parked her car in the backyard of her house since she went out so little. Mum kept busy by gardening or baking/buying cookies for the children on the street. Mum's neighbour, Ivy, never parked well. Whenever I stopped by, her car was always parked so close to my car that I had to park on the curb. I wouldn't have cared about Ivy's piss poor parking, but for two things. One, she had 4 or 5 kids and had parties almost every weekend, leaving trash in Mum's yards. Two, I loved my car. A 2016 metallic ice blue Dodge Challenger Hellcat, the first car I had ever purchased brand new. I washed that car once a week, detailed the interior, and had rules against eating, drinking, or even leaving trash in my car. It was my pride and joy. Mum had called the police throughout Ivy's residence because of the parties. Ivy's guests would fill up the cul-de-sac with their cars, obstructing traffic and get into loud, drunk fights at and after midnight. I often found empty beer bottles, empty condom wrappers, cigarette butts, and empty crack baggies on the fence between the properties, mostly on Ivy's side of the fence. This is all important information. One Saturday while having dinner at Mum's house, I heard a loud crash and my car alarm went off. I ran outside to see Ivy's older model Honda Accord back out of her parking space and speed down the street. Ivy's Accord had a dent from the front bumper to the door and the headlight had popped out. I approached my Challenger with trepidation and screamed in anguish at what I saw. My car, my beautiful 3-week-old car with less than 500 miles on it, had a dent stretching from the passenger's door to the front bumper and the right front wheel was tilted at a 30-degree angle. I was livid and in anguish as I called the police, filed an online claim with my insurance, and arranged a tow truck to take my damaged car to the dealership. The estimated cost of repairs came out to $3,400 US. Total cost of repair was eventually $6,500. I had a low insurance deductible, $100, but my car was parked and Ivy owed for the damages. For 2 weeks I knocked on Ivy's door or waited for her to come home. She stopped driving her damaged Accord and either rented or borrowed a Ford Fusion. When she was home, she didn't answer the door. When she wasn't, she stayed away until my rental car, a Dodge Charger, left Mum's parking space. I left a note on Ivy's door for her to call me, but only received harassing calls from the restricted phone numbers or people blaring air horns in my ear when I answered. The revenge. About 2 weeks after the accident, Ivy's children came to Mum's house for some cookies. I noticed that 2 of them had bruises around their eyes. If Ivy hadn't have hit my car, I still would have done what I did, but maybe not as underhandedly. I had Mum take pictures with and of the children, but waited until the next party to strike. Ivy had a party that night, or the night after. Mum called me to let me know, and I installed an app onto my phone that gave me a fake phone number. I called 911 and reported the party. There's a loud party at 1007 Mountain Drive, and I'm worried because the children are around all these drunk adults. Please, hurry. Mum called me to let me know the police had arrived. I drove to her house, stopping by the grocery store, so that appeared to be the reason, and saw Ivy and her boyfriend, Bane, already sitting in the back of the squad car. From a news broadcast that night, I found out that Bane had warrants for his arrest. Initially, the charges were disorderly conduct and disturbing the peace. However, Mum turned over the photos of the children, anonymously mailing them through the post office with Ivy's address and name as the return address. Less than a week later, Ivy and Bane were charged with child abuse charges. I think Bane was charged with more severe charges as well for abusing Ivy's daughter. Either way, the children ended up being in foster care and Ivy and Bane ended up in prison. I mean, the child abuse charges and the disorderly conduct, that's a crime, don't get me wrong. But I think the real crime here was that they estimated $3,400 for a repair and it actually ended up being $6,500. Like, that's not a very good estimate, I can tell you that. The school's revenge. The worst teacher. In my old school, there was a substitute teacher that nobody liked. And I mean nobody. She was the kind of teacher who would give out creative punishments to those who she disliked. Let me explain. Her class would start with her stepping into the classroom and distributing a worksheet. Then, she would ask us to do the worksheet, but interrupt us to tell us a story, which happened to be about her poor son with cancer. Pay attention, this will be important soon. When we tried to do our worksheets, she would dish out ridiculous punishments for not listening to her. Insane, right? At the end of the class, we would end up with nothing finished and an angry teacher because we didn't do any of the worksheets that the poor substitute teacher gave out. After my first terrible class with her, where several people had been punished for whispering, standing outside the class, someone had even been punished for sneezing without covering his mouth. He had to stand outside the toilet entrance. And several who had evidently had past interactions with her were also subject to the same treatment. She moved their tables to the back of the class. I complained about the teacher to everyone else in my school bus. To my surprise, lots of them had also had classes with her, and all of them hated her. But what one senior knew was the cherry on the cake. Apparently, he had met the teacher's son. The son was perfectly fine, as he had already recovered from cancer. Everything the teacher had ever told us about her poor son was a lie, and about how he still suffered from the affliction. We lost all sympathy for her. That was it. We slowly, methodically, waited for the end of the year, getting as many people into our plan as possible. In the end, it seemed like half the school had rallied behind our secret movement. We sent emails to everyone in the know. All the emails were identical, so it might have been a great shock to the office staff when they received over 100 identical complaint letters about that one teacher on the last day of school, each with a different name signed on it. Although it was mentioned in discipline briefing, nobody was punished. And we never saw that teacher again. And that was the school's revenge. There was only ever two types of substitute teachers. There was the ones that you hated and the ones you loved. Like, there was no like or dislike. It was hate or love. It was so weird. Justice in the face of a gummy bear. So, around a year ago, I was 21 at the time, I went on an exchange semester in Mannheim, Germany. I also rented a room at a moderate price. I shared the house I was living in with 3 other people. My landlord, who was in their early 30s, and 2 other exchange students, also 21 years old, both Austrians. One of them stayed a semester like me, one stayed a full year. We were allowed into our house because we could all speak German, although mine wasn't that good. Everything seemed cool and okay. The other students were like my best friends. We hung out together like any student would do. Gaming, going out, making memes, important for the story, etc. After a while, I started to notice that some of my food started missing. First, it was just rice and other cheap groceries that were being stolen. I barely noticed it, thought I was hallucinating. But after like 2 months, it got worse when bottles of wine and pieces of meat started going missing, etc. Being confused by this, I decided to tell my roommates, who were facing the same problem, since we were sharing a kitchen, including a fridge and cabinets to store our food. Through sharing our stories, we concluded that our landlord was doing this, and oh boy were we right. When we confronted him about it, he got very offended, started screaming and cussing. He was screaming stuff like, "It's my house and I'll do what I want in it. I will plunder your stuff, like Germany did in World War II to your countrymen." I'm Dutch. So to say, that wasn't very helpful for us, so me and my roommates tried to make a plan to stop him on an evening of chilling and laughing. Landlord wasn't there. I'm not sure which one of us came with the initial idea anymore, but at one point we were laughing about the devilish £5 bag of gummy bears. As this is a meme, they got hilarious reviews because of their extremely laxative effect on Amazon. They had cost us together around €40, which at that point was just 20% of what our landlord stole from us in terms of food and drinks, so worth it. Now the best part comes. When they arrived, we took a few of them and put them in 3 bags, each for one of our areas we put our food in. Next day, the bathroom was occupied all day long, as expected, since our landlord thought those gummy bears were a delicious late night snack. He texted me one time, "Why would you eat those bears? They are evil." I responded with, "Oh, they were a gift from my parents. Thanks for taste testing." Safe to say, I wasn't bothered by him stealing my food anymore. After me and the other roommate left our friend behind at the end of the semester, our landlord fell back into his old practices again with our successors. Although our roommate had a deterrent for this, the gummy bears. Soon, I received the text he fell for the same trick again. Justice was served again. This was literally the most hilarious experience and sweetest revenge I ever had. The landlord was probably looking at the gummy bears the second time around like, these weren't good to me last time, but maybe just one. Hey guys, I hope you're all having a really good day, and I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you're new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos. But for now, I will see you all tomorrow.